The Atari VCS. And no, not the one from 1977 that would go on to become the legendary Atari 2600. This VCS comes from an Atari far removed from the days of Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney. Also the Warner Communications era, the Tramiel Technology years, or even Hasbro. This Atari is the modern incarnation of Infogrames Interactive out of Paris and known today as Atari SA. But to tell our story, we need to go back to 2017. So let's do that, shall we? We'll start off with the PlayStation 4. It was in the middle of a massive historic run. And the Xbox One wasn't far behind, both absolute powerhouses of their generation. Then there was the Wii U. Well, it existed, and for the record, I loved the Wii U. But then, boom, along came the Nintendo Switch, a groundbreaking console and handheld hybrid that changed everything. Now, I'm a Gen X guy, an old school gamer. Back in the day, I used to make arcade machines. After a few of those projects fizzled, I got into collecting games and consoles. I grew up in the era of Atari, ColecoVision, and Intellivision. My very first console? The Coleco Gemini. Kids today call these old games primitive. And sure, compared to modern titles, they absolutely are. But back then, games like Adventure on the 2600 give us something special, something called imagination. The graphics were simple, but the worlds we created in our minds were absolutely limitless. Today's games offer cinematic experiences, and I love that too, by the way. But preserving the past is just as important to me as enjoying the present. Now came the Nintendo Entertainment System, right around the time of my preteen years, first crushes and heartbreaks. But please, let's move on from that, shall we? There was also the Sega Master System. Next came the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo, and the endless parade of consoles that followed. And through it all, I stayed on this wild gaming ride. So why bring up 2017? Because I am an Atari guy. I grew up with fond memories of Atari, and I am devoted to the history of Atari. That's why this announcement in 2017 really caught my attention. Around that time, I was watching a ton of YouTube, dreaming of one day starting my own channel. You see, I watched a lot of well-known YouTube personalities from the retro gaming genre, and a few of them really stood out to me and taught me a lot. These guys are still going strong, by the way, so please check them out. Links are in the description below. You never know, one day, maybe one day, yours truly will become a famous YouTuber just like them. Know what I'm saying? Take it easy there, champ. You're nowhere near their leagues yet. Now back to our story. An ad popped up. The Atari box. A new Atari console? That caught my attention. After all, the last one, the Jaguar, came out between 1993 and 1994, around the time I started working at Radio Shack. Yes, boys and girls, full-on nerd alert. Oh yeah. Atari later renamed the Atari box the VCS, paying homage to the original home console. The project launched on Indiegogo, a crowdfunding site, and YouTubers jumped on it right away. Some were excited, others skeptical, and rightfully so.
And was I wrong about the Atari VCS? Is this an amazing machine? No, I wasn't wrong at all.
Just a year earlier, we seen the Coleco Chameleon fiasco. Fake prototypes, broken promises, and the Jaguar case pretending to be something new. Coleco quickly pulled their support, and that dream just crashed and burned. So, when Atari announced the VCS, the gaming world was cautiously optimistic. But, against all odds, Atari smashed their crowdfunding goal, asking for $100,000 and ending up with over $3 million. Impressive. And honestly, that case design, I freaking love it. Now, I didn't back it at the time. I decided to do a wait and see kind of thing. After a few delays, it did fall off my radar. Then, in 2021, boom, it resurfaced. I remembered it immediately. By then, I was already working toward my YouTube channel. And by the way, I still am, So I could really use your help, so please subscribe. Thank you so much. So I went to order one, and then reality hit. I live in Canada, land of maple syrup, a lot of polite people, and sadly, consoles that never seem to be released here. Well, it sucks to be a retro gamer in Canada, eh? Let's move on, shall we? Systems like the TurboGrafx 16 Mini and the Sega Genesis Mini 2 weren't even sold in Canada unless you wanted to shell out $600 Canadian or more. Yeah, no thank you. Thankfully, later on, I managed to grab the Atari 2600 Plus, the Atari 400 Mini, and the Atari 7800 Plus. Links in the description below. And now, here we are, 2025-ish, and I see the Atari VCS finally available on Amazon from Atari themselves. A little late to the game for me, sure, but hey, being late just means I've got years of stories to work with. So I clicked order. Now let's unbox this baby and see what this is all about. Alright boys and girls, let's crack this thing open. I love opening new boxes with new stuff, nice and shiny new items. Here's the Atari VCS straight out of the Amazon box. And there goes the Amazon box. Here we have the box itself in its plastic wrapper. We're going to get rid of that as well. There we go, nice presentation. I really enjoyed a throwback to asteroids on the side of the box. I just want to also specify, if you've opened one of these, it is paper thin. I did everything in my power not to tear this, because I like to keep the boxes to everything I own. Call me strange, but that's how I am. Here's the console. Here's the wireless modern controller. And my favorite, the wireless classic joystick. I really can't wait to crack this thing open. And again, another look at the box. Now, this is the all-in-one bundle I purchased. Again, these boxes are very easy to tear, so I'm trying my best here not to tear anything. I watched a lot of unboxing, and there was a lot of tearing happening, I must say. As you can see, the front of the box also has throwbacks to asteroids, which is great, including on the two controller boxes, which is wonderful. I'm glad Atari does this. And here we go. Here's the highlight of it all, including a nice foam backing to protect everything. The Atari VCS console itself, wrapped up in more plastic. Now, there's no instruction manual with this. You have to download it online through PDF. Now, this has the black trim and the wood front, again throwing homage to the original Atari VCS, aka the 2600 from 1977. Here's the bottom of it, and all the labeling, including the serial number. And this thing looks beautiful. I've always loved the look of this console. There's the back of it. I just don't understand why the power button is on the back. But if you do have problems, just scan this barcode. They also included a limited time edition for Antstream, a cloud service for retro gaming. And the thing is, we don't need these. Goodbye. Now, underneath here, we're going to find all of our cables. Here we have the power supply and the HDMI cable. The power supply looks a lot like a mini PC or a laptop power supply. Now here's the modern controller. It has a quick start menu for charging, and the controller itself has a foam pad for protecting it. And here we go. It's an Xbox One controller. There's not much more I can say. And here we are, the modern controller for the Atari VCS. And it feels pretty cheap. It has a horrible four-way controller, so I don't recommend that. The buttons feel okay, they're clicky, but it's pretty bad. I would recommend just using an Xbox One controller. It'll work just fine on the Atari VCS. But yeah, I mean, you can almost see through the plastic of this. You got the Atari logo here, and when the light hits it, it don't look black, it looks gray. And yeah, this thing is going to stay in the box. I'll give it a test run, but I am not pleased with it. Now here we go, the classic controller. I have been waiting for this one. It is a throwback to the CX-40, the original controller from Atari. And it has, of course, a modern twist on it. But I've heard it's pretty cheap and flimsy as well. And as I hold it, yeah, it's also got a gray plastic in the light. The spinner is pretty bad. The buttons are good. They click. And yeah, it's got blemishes on the plastic itself. Looks like stains. Now, the cool thing about this controller is it illuminates on the direction that you move the joystick, which is pretty cool, I must admit. It gives the controller quite a bit of character. But, you know what? Let's quickly look at the bottom of this thing here and start hooking all of this up, shall we? What? Blemishes in the plastic? It just keeps getting better. Here's that wood veneer that they put on the front of this thing. It's not fake plastic, it's real wood. And now we are illuminated and booted up and ready to go. Well, what's that? Was that a glitch? Wonderful. Here we go, boys and girls. And I'm waiting. Okay, so I've plugged in the modern controller, technically the Xbox controller from Temu. And it says I need to push A. A. Of course, we're going to select English and hello. So I'm going to be connecting it to my local Wi-Fi. And let me quickly punch that in. Sorry, it's a secret. All right, we're connected. Now, it was at this moment I knew I was completely and totally because it kept freezing, restarting, and freezing. That was when I found out I'd had a firmware issue on this batch of Atari VCSs. So looking through Reddit, looking through Google pages, and YouTube channels, I was able to find a solution to this. And believe me, the solution wasn't on Atari's website. I will leave links in the description if you have these issues, as there's lots of people in the community out there ready to help you get your VCS started. So here we go. What do I think of the Atari VCS? Let's start with the negatives, though there aren't many. First, the power button. I'm not a fan of its placement on the back of the console, right where all the cables and plugs are. It really should be on the front, especially if the system is sitting on a shelf in an entertainment unit. Second, the controllers. As I mentioned before, one is essentially an Xbox-style controller, and the other, the classic joystick, is a fantastic design. But the plastic quality feels a bit cheap to me. Next is the content. Everything available on the VCS can also be found on other platforms like the PlayStation Store, Nintendo eShop, and the Microsoft Store for Xbox, not to mention Steam. And finally, there's the setup process and the lack of support. That definitely needs improvement. But to be fair, the system has been out for nearly 5 years now, originally launched during a time when Atari was still trying to re-establish itself. It's also important to note how much Atari's leadership has changed over time. Wade Rosen became the CEO of Atari in April of 2021, after the Atari VCS had already been released. And that's a long way from the days of hotels and casinos. Now that we've covered everything else, let's quickly talk about the positives of the VCS. I really do love this console, and I would have regretted not picking it up. It looks great. It's well presented, and yes, it's basically a computer in a box, but that's part of its charm. You can install another OS, run emulators, and enjoy everything from Atari classics to Jaguar and even Tengen titles. I recommend using the Linux version of Balsa Terra for that. To me, the VCS is historic, a true Renaissance machine. Without it, we may not have today's Atari's revival, including the 2600 Plus and the 7800 Plus. The VCS helped bring the brand back for both Generation X and newer retro fans. So yes, I absolutely recommend this console. I don't regret it for a second, and I can't wait to upgrade it and make more videos, even on the classic controller. Thanks so much for tuning in and checking out the Atari VCS with me today. I really appreciate your support, and it means a lot. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I've got more VCS content coming soon, especially when I upgrade the memory and storage, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, eh? See you soon!